Fantastic. Thank you for coming and welcome to this month's Women's ERG special topic. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Amy Snyder. I'm the Senior Sales Strategy and Planning Manager in the Marketing and Insights Group. I've been here at JBSS about 6 years. It is my honor to introduce today's speaker, Allison Johnson, who is a dear friend of mine and a former colleague at Northwestern Medicine. Allison is a licensed clinical professional counselor and a professional certified coach with more than 25 years of experience in mental health, organizational psychology, and professional development coaching. She started her career in private practice, counseling adults, children, and couples. At Northwestern Medicine, Allison was a program and business development manager for behavioral health services. She also provided coaching and training for clinical staff in the high-stress hospital environment. Especially during COVID, there was a lot of burnout during COVID. Her passion has always been coaching, and in 2022, Allison started her own business, Leo Coaching and Consulting. She works with leaders and professionals to grow their careers and personally to achieve their goals while taking care of their own wellness and prevent burnout. Today, she is here to talk to us about managing stress and avoiding burnout. Please welcome Allison Johnson.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, so do I need to be up there?
No,
The ceiling mics are on, so you should be, but if anybody on the phone can't hear, just speak up and we'll mitigate. Okay, so
Don't have a camera on.
we want it. Okay, I'll take care of the camera.
We'll start with that.
You can do your thing, I'll move the.
I'll go up for a while, and then when you get to the slides, then I can roam them around a little bit. Okay. I've been driving by this place for 45 years. And now I got to see what was inside. And all of you, I'm really glad to be talking to a whole room full of women. It's such a privilege to talk to a room full of women because it's my heart. You know, I've been where you guys are. And how many of you are mothers? Keep your hands up if you still have kids in the house. Anybody have a partner in the house who sometimes feel like you're the mother of, even though you don't want to? Okay. All right. So women have more responsibility than our counterparts in the male world a lot of the time. And as progressive as our culture has become for women in the workforce, the domestic labor side, in other words, taking care of households, managing households, still falls primarily in cultures around the world to females, even though they're working full time outside the home. And so that's why I love talking to y'all, because you have even more to worry about than a lot of our guy friends and our guy colleagues. And that's not the case everywhere. Of course, there are a lot of men who are managing households and children these days too, much better than it used to be. But we have special roles to fill in the world. We are still the nurturer carers. And that really goes well for us a lot of the time. And we have to be careful that it doesn't go wrong for us, because my biggest message is, if I could change the world with one message, it is that human beings need to take care of their bodies like it's an essential task. Taking care of the body, taking care of the mind helps you in all ways. So burnout doesn't usually happen if we're taking care of all of this. But self-care can feel selfish in the way we're acculturated as females, especially. And just when you see the needs around you, to take care of yourself doesn't come naturally for most of us, unless you're narcissists. Anybody in here know that they're a narcissist and willing to admit? My brother's a narcissist and totally admitted it at Easter. No plans to change it. And everybody knows it. So anyway, let's go on to I changed the name of this presentation last night. Oh.
Before or after you sent the slides?
Oh, don't worry about it. No, really. I only changed the name of it, but I can't get it to go, Amy. All right, let's try this one. Let's try this one.
Use the
Let's try
keyboard
this.
first to click through
Let's,
and then
we'll
the-
just use an arrow. I'll
Then
just
the
do
thing
the arrow.
should take
Then it
over.
will, okay. The only thing I changed was igniting strategies to quench Because the word quench, if you think about it, what does it feel like? To me, it feels like quenching a
Something to-
thirst, quenching a fire, putting out fire. So I decided to change it to quench professional burnout, because if you're already living in it, you want to get rid of it. Okay, so the human function curve, we're going to talk about stress, burnout, and mental health disorder. And I'll show you a continuum because all that's on a continuum. So the human function curve is also a continuum. So on the left side, you see at the top, we have good stress, we have, wait, is it right there? Good stress and negative stress. The more our performance goes up, the more our stress arouses. That makes sense, right? The more you have on you, the more stress you feel. And at first, if you're on the left side of the hump, the peak, it's healthy. It's healthy tension. It gets you going. It gets you motivated, gets us up in the morning. In fact, we have a stress hormone called cortisol. Your cortisol levels are highest when you first wake up because your body is meant to be waking up and cortisol helps us. Cortisol is also a bad hormone for us if our fight or flight response and our adrenals are pumping it all day long. And that's what makes hardening, the arteries, coronary artery disease, and a lot of the other stress illnesses that we can have. So, all that to say, there's healthy stress. And then there's the comfort zone. And then we start pushing out of our comfort zones. We, women, are masters at pushing past the hump by sheer will and grit. And there's no men in here. Are they listening? Because how many guys, I know some guys will do this, but a lot of guys, what do? When they're stressed out or they need a break, what do? They take a break, right? So we could learn from that instead of going, you lazy. Maybe we go, oh, good idea. After you're done with your break, I'm taking mine this afternoon. Deal? Especially if there are children to watch. Couples who, both working, it's good if they can decide who gets Saturday morning sleep in and who gets Sunday morning sleep in or nap. And have that be a deal because everybody needs a break. All right, we push past the hump. We're tired. We keep pushing through tired and stress keeps on us. And then, over time, we can do it. We can do it. We can do it. We can do it until we can't, or we're still doing it, but things are starting to pop out. Like most leaders who I coach for derailing leadership behavior. In other words, they're not being nice to their staff. They're being too curt. They're being too directive. They're being too commanding. They're being too bitchy. They're being too whatever you want to call it. They're yelling. They're yelling at people sometimes. Those are derailing leadership behaviors. Almost every one of them is in too high stress situation for too long. So they're not taking the time to take care of themselves. And they're certainly not taking the time to think about what you all need from them and need to hear from them at any particular time when they're giving direction. So those leaders will recognize that if you stop long enough to take a look. Now, then the other thing is, how did I get there? So we can push ourselves into exhaustion and ill health, and sometimes our circumstances will, and sometimes our personalities will. High achieving women, anybody? Anybody? Come on, how many others? Yeah, okay, good. So high achieving women, we get a lot done, but we have to be careful that it's not at the expense of our own health, which sometimes we have to figure that out the hard way. So here's the continuum. Stress, natural reaction to demands, body or mind. Burnout, here's the real definition. It's a reaction to prolonged high stress. Like we can run hard for a little while, but if we have to run hard too long, that's when burnout can set in. And it results in physical and mental exhaustion, risk of physical and mental health decline.
So today we're going to talk about mental health over there on the far end of the continuum. Those sorts of mental health problems, let's assume today that they're coming from situational reasons like stress response, like accumulation of stressful events in your life, like not taking care of this body. And then that can happen. Of course, we also have inherited mental health disorder, brain neurochemistry imbalance, often inherited, not necessarily. And that can be things like depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder. Personality disorders is usually environmental. Nurture is where they come from most of the time. And some of the other disorders. So today we're talking about if you don't take care of yourself, we can push past burnout and start to have mental health problems. That's what happened to me when I was in my 30s. Anybody in their 30s? Okay. So high achieving people, firstborn daughter, firstborn, period. Any firstborns? Yeah. Careful now. Because we do it to ourselves and our family sort of does it to us sometimes too. Only children. Yep. Okay. I mean, we all have reasons why we end up a certain way. So anxiety and depression and premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Since I'm talking to women, I stuck that one in here on this one. What is that? Do you guys know what it is? It's PMS on steroids. Okay. So PMS of the mood flavor. Anybody have any issues right before? You know, that week before, the several days before, where you have mood fluctuation, anxiety's up, tolerance is down. For me, it felt like, you know, that shatter glass, like I was the shatter glass wall. And any little thing would make me shatter. I was going to shatter. So for me, yeah, I had premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is related to hormones. Moods are related to hormones. So that's why if you go through your cycle, when your progesterone drops, that's premenstrual mood disorder. Progesterone, folks, not estrogen, is the culprit. Because it has to drop, then we, you know, back to 5th grade. Then you shed your uterine lining. So that's why only women get that. And premenstrual dysphoria. Dysphoria is bad feelings. Like sometimes feel like my mother always used to say, during that time in, you know, her cycle, she felt like she wanted to kill herself until noon, 2 days a week before her period. I mean, it can be really strong. For me, it was anxiety and low frustration tolerance equals being bitchy. So that was mine. And nobody diagnosed it. My therapist was a man. My doctor was a man. And as a therapist, this is one thing I always ask my women clients, let's chart it and see if it's cyclical. And a lot of times it can be. So stress goes up, that stuff goes up. The best solution for premenstrual dysphoria, besides some medication and hormone supplementation, is take stress away. So that's what I used to hear. Oh, just take your stress away. Be de-stressed. Well, you know what, folks? That's just not so. Get away from me, kids. So then burnout. Let's go there because that's what we're really talking about. It is progressive. Okay, progressive means along the continuum, progressive loss of energy and purpose. So that's why this stuff is hard to see until you're in it. Because it's like the frog. You throw the frog in the cold water and you turn the heat on. The frog won't jump out because the frog body adjusts, temperature adjusts to the heat. And then they boil. So that's what it's like for us. Pressure goes up. We keep doing our thing. We can do it. We're getting it all done until stuff starts to, you know, the wheels start falling off. So until you get into mental and physical exhaustion, overextending your capacity. Your capacity is at the top of the hump. That's your capacity. You go past that, now you're an overextend. And that's when this stuff can start to slide. And mood wise, here's how it is. Who wrote the song, My Give a Damn is Busted? Some female country singer where the refrain, My Give a Damn is Busted. That's the best, Amy's gonna find out. That's the best description. Like you used to care about stuff, but you don't now. You don't want to go out of your house. It's too much effort to go out socially. Even combing your hair can be a thing. You don't want to put a makeup on. You don't care what anybody else thinks. It's just that your give a damn's busted. And you don't care about work, emotion, all that stuff. Your productivity and your performance starts to deteriorate because also on that, so the curve went up and then it started to go down, performance coming down over prolonged stress. So that's burnout. And the problem with burnout is you can't recover from it with a weekend. You're super depleted. You might get sick. You might have a cold. You might have depression. You might have compassion fatigue. Let's talk about that for a second. I threw this slide in because we're female. So compassion fatigue is for caretaking type people. If you're a super big caretaker type, you will take care of other people at the expense of yourself unless you become self-aware enough to know you do that and put some cross-check and balances in for your own self. A lot of times nurses can fall in this category. They're takers by nurture, maybe nature, who knows their profession. Physicians can fall in here. It's people who work with other CASA workers. Have you guys heard of court-appointed special advocates? They see the worst of the worst. Social workers who work with, Department of Child and Family Services. Compassion fatigue can be really big for them. Let's say you're even like a hospice volunteer, something like that, where what you're doing every day, you're seeing hard things that other people work through. Therapist, where your compassion keeps going out of you and out of you until you got nothing left to care with. So highly empathetic people.
It could be taking care of like a special needs child.
Yes,
Aging.
elder care,
Dying.
any care where you don't have respite. Like my girlfriend, her husband's diagnosed with Parkinson's. He also has bipolar disorder. Sometimes she feels like she can't get out of the house. She texted me this week, I'm supposed to go to Fort Myers to see girlfriends this weekend. Feels in a bad way. Should I go? What do you think I said?
Yes.
Go. And she said, we have people who will take care of him. So go. I said, if you don't go, you're going to burn. And this is the rest of your life now, the rest of, his life with her. So that kind of stuff. And leaving one job for another doesn't cure the origins of why we are over caretaking. That's on us. That's how we grew up. That's our temperament, our personality. Sometimes it is what's going on at home. So if you find yourself in that without really knowing what the origin is and how to take care of yourself in settings where you're a caretaker, you'll go to the next job where you might have a similar role and find yourself there again after a while. So this takes, rise in self-awareness. Here's some of the symptoms of stress, burnout, and mental health disorder. And they're kind of mixed all in there because remember, it's a continuum, but broke them out by physical, emotional, and spiritual categories. So just take a read through. And I'm sure all of us have some of these or more than one at any particular time or particular times. Hopefully not all the time, because that's when you're burning. Pretty much soup to nuts is in there. So you know yourself. You could probably circle, if you had this on paper in front of you, which ones are you? So just tell me,
I'll go first. For me, emotional. I will get bitchy. I will get anxious if I'm not taking care of myself. How about you guys? Volunteer. Extrovert, volunteer.
Headaches.
Headache. Okay, you'll have a headache. Physical. Okay. All right, what else?
Insomnia.
Insomnia. Yes, very common. Fatigue. Yeah, tired. You betcha. My husband was a marriage and family therapist, and he could have worked till he was 80. He suffered compassion fatigue because he's an introvert, very much empathic, and he would be so drained out from doing therapy. Not me, it bounces right off. I'm insensitive and no, kidding. I mean, I just have an extroverted personality. It didn't affect me the same way it affected him. So it all depends on you, your personality, how this stuff will show up. And you know what? You could ask other people if you're not that aware. Just say, when you know I'm running real hard, how does it show up that I might be overextending myself? Other people will know. Right, right. Okay, so here's the clinical wording for bitchy. You can just say, if somebody says, "Oh, you're being really bitchy," you can say, "Yes, I'm aware that I have low frustration tolerance today." Because that's what it is. And that is,
Usually such the opposite, so like when I reach my levels, it's like everybody knows it because it's so contrary to how I typically am.
right, good. Do you know it when it's happening?
Yeah, well, yeah.
You can tell. And so it doesn't mean that, we have to hide it all, but maybe you want to say to people, "Oh, yellow, it's a yellow day. It's a yellow, it's not green. I'm aware that I'm yellow. Tomorrow might be red. Today's a red day. Stay away." Okay, so here's how to help
Color
yourself.
code on my cue.
You could literally put the stoplight. That's a therapy technique that we had people color code, like husbands. I would always say, if women had premenstrual dysphoria, it's like she's gonna code the calendar yellow on that week. And then if it's yellow or if it's red, no pun intended, but if it's a yellow day, don't get on her case. Try to take the kids out of the house. Give her some space because that's, it's not our fault. It's not a personal failing. It's nothing to be ashamed of once you learn what it is. It is frickin' hormonal and brain chemistry. We have to deal. So here's the cycle. So physical health, let's start upper left. Physical health. Let's just start, wait, I'm changing my mind. So let's start upper right. Start with self-care. Okay, self-care has a bad rap. Self-care is more than yoga. It's more than having a nice coffee with flavorings. It's more than getting nails done. Self-care is taking care of this brain and this body consistently. So we do self-care. It affects our mental health, good or bad, or we either do or don't do self-care. It affects our mental health, good or bad. Self-care affects our physical health. And the whole point is it's a wheel, it's rolling. Any part of it that gets a flat part, it's gonna lump along. So self-care affect both of the others. Mental health, physical health, and spiritual health are the strands of the rope. It's all woven together. So you can improve your situation either by doing things for your physical health or for your mental health, but good to do both because it's all connected. In medicine, we only really talk about, until recently, physical health. But mental health, does that affect your physical health? Yeah, because you're either burning yourself out by being, manic, too anxious. Anxious people either gain a lot of weight or they lose a lot of weight if they have an anxiety disorder because they either comfort eat or their stomachs churn so much they can't eat.
So that affects your health, right? And anxiety and depression affect your physical health too. So it's all connected. This isn't meant to be a threat. It's just really the truth. So the people who are really good at taking care of their physical state, their wellness, guess what happened to them? They burnt out and they're in recovery and determined to never let it happen again. So who's ever been really burnt out? Yeah. I mean, certain seasons of our work can burn us out, right? And then if that season never ends, like let's say during COVID, you know, all of the medical care practitioners, they had to work so many shifts, they burnt out. So many of them quit that could. They retired early, they went to the fields, they got out of hospital medicine, they went into other kinds of healthcare. So that's why we have a shortage now. And people like my generation, I'm at the tail of the baby boomers, we need them more than ever. So the population has bulged to elder at a time where we're short on healthcare providers. So those poor hospitals, stay here at JBSS. Don't go to work in medicine, right? Okay, so I am asking, begging, pleading for you guys not to ignore your wellness, which is, I like a better word than self-care, because wellness means a lot more than self-care. Stress, burnout will take your time, energy, or health from you later. If you don't take care of yourself, you'll find yourself depleted. You have to replete, stay in a good place for the rest of your life. So hopefully you only have one burnout experience. Which one's your life now?
The one on the left.
Okay. And notice the big rocks are on top. There's a whole rocks terminology. Big rocks are the priorities. Smaller rocks are like B priority, and the sand, well, you know, but sand goes, it's easier to put in there. And the big rocks are on top. We don't want the big rocks. We're tired. We don't want to look at the big rocks, the priorities. Oh, that's a big project. I'm just going to do a little stuff because then I'll feel more productive. It'll help me feel better. I can cross stuff off my list until the big project is almost due. Then what do? Panic and what?
Yes.
You work your bun off, right? Maybe both those buns. Maybe you know, you're working through the night. You think about college or schooling. Did anybody pull all-nighters? Yeah. How many days in a row did you pull an all-nighter though?
Not that many.
Not that many. So we can do it. We can short ourselves for a while, but not consistently over time, or else we have issues. Like, anybody ever go home from finals week and get sick? Yeah, that's why. Because your body said, it takes a toll for you to do what you were doing, like partying and then studying on, you know, whatever you're doing. Okay, so these are the essentials. And I know you've heard this from everybody in your life. Doctors, medicine, all the blogs, everything you look at on social. I mean, it's all telling you, oh, we must get enough sleep and we must eat correctly and we must have physical activity. Yeah. I don't have time, right? And I really understand that because I was where you were. When you guys are climbing up the mountain, okay, I love this analogy too. There's a guy named David Brooks, and for people my age, his book, The Second Mountain, is so great. You read that one? Did you tell me to read that one?
No.
He's in my book club and she usually tells me what to read. So anyway, the first mountain is you are in your 20s and 30s and 40s, and you're going up that productivity mountain. You are investing in your schooling, your career, building a family, getting all the stuff you need, like houses and dogs and partners and all that stuff. I don't know what else, boats, whatever it is for you guys. You guys are acquiring and building. And then you get to the top of the mountain and you start to go down the other side And then you're in midlife. And the valley can be what people call midlife crisis. Well, midlife crisis can hit people anywhere from 35 to 55. It's not just in your 40s. It just kind of depends how your life is going and when you realize that you really don't have infinity to live. Then you're in the valley. And then it's like, holy, okay, I only have this many more years to live. What have I accomplished so far? Am I doing what I wanted to do? Am I being the human that I want to be? And if the answer is kinda, not so bad. But if it's like, no, because life took over while you were on the first mountain and you didn't get to the stuff that's most important to you, maybe it's everything else everybody else wanted. So the second mountain is you have another shot. So somewhere around there in midlife, someplace, late 40s, 40s, 50s, you figure out there's more to life than what you've been doing. And you start to focus on that and getting more of that into your life. And then you start climbing the second mountain. You're searching. Where's the right trail? Where's the right trail? Which way do I want to go? And then you figure it out and you're at the top of the second mountain. And then after that, it's easy. You're going down the other side. You're having a great life. You feel purposeful. I'm at the top of the second mountain. I haven't quite found it yet, but I'm close. And one of the things I love to do is this, is to help you guys kind of hopefully avoid some of the first mountain burnout. So sleep, nutrition, and physical activity, back to that. How can you get enough sleep? Enough sleep for you is what? For me, 7 hours. I can do 6 consistently, but guess what happens after a week? I'm tired. You know what I do when I'm tired? Comfort eat after 8 p.m. Chips. I'm not even hungry. I'm not even hungry, but I'm comfort eating because I've been working too hard. And somehow my brain is saying you need a break. You need pleasure. For me, that's pleasure. And it backfires. So there's also this little chemical called leptin, Leptin. If we don't get enough sleep, during sleep, leptin is endocrine that gets produced by the body while we're sleeping. And it's a satiation chemical, meaning that if we don't have enough leptin, we always feel hungry, even if we're not hungry. Because guess what? When you're stressing your body, what does it want? Fuel, fuel, fuel. So sleep is like the best thing you could do. If you had to pick one, make sure you get enough sleep. Not so easy when you have a bunch of littles in the house and they're up all night and they're in your bed and all that, or, a new puppy or whatever it is, a snoring spouse. If that snorer is keeping you up all night, it was better for your health to get a quiet night's rest. Get the guy or woman on what do you call that thing? Apnea machine. Yeah. Or sleep in the other room. Always, like grandma and grandpa always had separate beds. I found out why when I stayed overnight. He was terrible snorer. Okay, physical activity. So you don't have to go run marathons. You don't have to do what Amy's husband does. He's like 100-miler on a bike person. No, but you got to move this thing. Move this body. I just went to a trainer last week and I thought I was doing great on exercise, and he looked me up and down and he had me do certain stuff and he goes, your hip flexors are tight. And I said, oh, is that why when I stand up from my computer that this hurts? Anybody have that thing? You stand up and you feel it right here. Okay, that means sitting, right? So you get the watch and it tells you to get up every 2 hours. That's a good thing. That's movement. Maybe it's just walking. Maybe it's just 3 days a week that you walk half an hour. Maybe it's walking this beautiful space you guys have here and making that a practice every, I don't know, you tell me what the people would tell them that your burnout prevention expert said they had to get up and walk every half an hour for 5 minutes. So activity, movement. It can be whatever kind you like, and it doesn't have to be the same all the time. You can take a walk, you can go on a bike ride, you can do a Pilates, you can, what other stuff? Lift weight. Absolutely right. Boy, does that feel good when you're done. Do you like it when you're doing it?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm getting stronger.
Good for her, but I hate it. I hate it with every fiber. But when I'm done, it's good, right? We have to stay strong to keep our bone density well. So know your limits and set boundaries. That's a whole nother class. If you want me back for that one, I'll come back. That is not so easy sometimes. That's even harder to know your limits and set boundaries. It's because of how you're acculturated again. You know, have you ever heard the word codependency? It's not just about alcohol and drug families, families with that in there. It can be how you grow up. Like if you grew up with a lack of emotional nurture because there were 13 kids in your family and there just wasn't enough parent to go around. Or maybe you grew up with a depressed mother like my husband did. That's why he's codependent. And within our house, it's like this, 2 codependents in recovery. Oh, where do you want to go to eat this weekend for our date? Oh, I don't know. What do you want to do? No, I asked you first, what do you want to do? We're both trying to please each other because we're both the pleaser. So what is it in your background, that will make it hard for you to set boundaries? And guess what? When you start doing it, a lot of people won't like it because they're used to you doing whatever they want you to. And sometimes it can be a boss, just saying. Okay, prioritize, let go of the smaller things. If you're burning, take non-essentials off your plate. What are the essentials? You got to work. Maybe not even. If you're burning too hard, maybe you take the leave to get yourself in order. There's a leave, medical leave includes mental health too. And burnout and exhaustion is mental health. Somebody will code it for you. Some doc will write the thing. So maybe it's even taking work off your plate to recover so that you can sleep, you can eat well, you can start moving again, you can start regaining your physical and mental and spiritual self back. Letting go of smaller things would be like, oh, the dusting never gets done. Okay. If you're perfectionistic, it's not okay. That's something to work on then. Perfectionists have a harder time with this, taking stuff off the plate thing and letting things go. Great book. I'm going to recommend it right now. It's called How to Keep House While Drowning. It's 3 hours long on audio. If you're at the point in your life where you can't even figure out how to keep your house clean, there's a reason, many, many reasons for that. And this book is about how to think about a house as functionally clean versus other kinds of clean. Maybe the kind of clean that, maybe you had an OCD mother and your house was super clean and your house isn't. Do you have shame when yours isn't? Okay, all right, get into therapy stuff. But anyway, you get my idea. And have some fun too. The girls deserve to have fun.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
More?
Yeah.
Okay. What's fun? Maybe it's not laughy ha, but what's fun for you? Maybe it's not a nail thing. Maybe for me, fun is going for my best fun in the whole world is being on a mountain skiing. That is my joy, fun in life. How often do I get to do it? I got to do it one day this year. That's all. But boy, was it great. So what's your fun? That's my ultimate fun. Other fun is walking in a quiet place in nature. So what's your fun? I mean, it's really hard when you have little kids, I'm not gonna lie, because they think you're there, that you exist to serve them. Maybe they need to learn that mommy gets to take care of herself too. And husband might need to learn that. Okay, thinking about your thinking. This is the other part. There's this part, the whole physical body, and then there's this part. What do we do to ourselves with our own talk, our self-talk, the chatterbox in your head that's always speaking, your subconscious, your thinking patterns. Everybody has them. If you aren't aware of what they're saying, kind of clue into it, because they can be saying really not helpful things to you. Like, you ever heard inner critic? Mine's name is Lois. It's good to ID who your inner critic is. Give it a name, a gender. And my anxiety is the blue tentacled monster. It starts here and it saps my energy out of my legs and arms until I feel so depleted and scared inside. Does anybody, what is your anxiety do? Where is it? What color is it? You know, this is all stuff that you can do exercises to. We're not going to do today, but it's good to identify those pieces of yourself so that you can, I'm a fighter. My personality is a fighter, not a fleer. So I fight my bad thinking. And you might want to accept yours and just say, shh. Maybe that's you. I want to punch mine in the face. Okay, so this says, and it's hard to read, isn't it? Everything begins from the mind, including changes. Start up here with how you think. So if you want to alter your life, you have to start with your mindset. Mindset is attitude. Same thing. Self-talk, same thing. So let's take this example. So this is how you can actually do this. If you guys want to take a note on this, it's an exercise I used to do as a therapist for people all the time, and it's great. I think kids are starting to learn this now in school about how to reframe their thinking. They might call it something else. I don't know what they call it. If anybody got a kid in school, I
The
don't know.
teach them SEL now, social emotional learning,
That's it. Yep, that
growth mindset.
okay. So they're getting this stuff in elementary school now. I never did. So here's the columns across the top. Something happens, a situation. You react to it emotionally. Anyone does. One does. And then our thoughts are present. Our behaviors come from our thinking. And then at the far column is, if that behavior was not good, how do you want to change your thoughts so that you don't have that behavior anymore? So, for instance, when my kids were little, I thought, how come you don't, I told you 5 times not to put the juice on the edge of the counter, because one kid whacked it and it went fucking everywhere. And I was having premenstrual dysphoric disorder that day. And I lost my crap on my kid. And then I felt ashamed and I cried. And it's a bad feeling. Moms, if you haven't been there, probably you will have a time like that. And we have to forgive ourselves. But I did not like my behavior response. So I went to therapy to stop being angry at my little kids. And what I learned was, in a situation where the kid isn't doing, or the kid makes a kid mistake, my thinking was, I told you, so why didn't you do what I told you? Because I was thinking of children as little adults, which when I was a child, was pretty much of a little adult. But that wasn't normal, right? That's not normal. So kids are not little adults. Kids mature, their brain, don't have the remembering capacity. They don't think to consequence. And the prefrontal cortex, some don't mature until they're 30. Guess which sex? Okay, all right. So our prefrontal cortex will probably mature closer to 20. But still, that's a long time. So I had to stop thinking this kid is not out to get me. Because I was thinking, this kid doesn't care. This kid, it's not true. They're just kids. Okay, anyway, that's my situation. This situation, angry person is shouting, cutting you off, swearing, insulting you. Okay, that could be in person. That could be in a car. But let's say it's in person. And you think, well, you just see what I just did? I went to situation to you think, because I know that step 2 is situation happens. Step 2 in reality is thoughts happen. But what we notice most is emotions first, unless we're used to thinking about our thinking. So thoughts, what a jerk, screw him, I don't need this. And so you would feel angry and disgusted with that person if you had that reaction.
And your behavior response might be, you're gonna avoid them, not return their messages. Let's say this is on the phone, they shouted at you, and you have less empathy for that person. And the alternative would be, it's not about me. I wonder what that person was going through that they treated me that way. Which is probably more in line with reality. But do we think that way? No, we take it personally, right? Okay. Another person would be in the fear area. Same thing happens, but they feel afraid. Uh-oh, she's gonna get me in trouble. I can't handle her. Is that triggering their past experiences of a nasty person in their life who really caused them much grief? Who knows? And behavior response, anxious, difficulty setting limits, does what angry, nasty people tell them to do all the time to avoid conflict. And then I can handle this. I need to get some help and advice for this situation and try to calm her down. These were the nurses that I was teaching to deal with aggressive patients and their family members for 2 years. That's where a lot of this came from, because they were dealing with situations like this all the time in the hospital where people are not being nice to them. So another one, another personality feels drained and discouraged when this happens because the thoughts are, I just have to take it. Why do I do this job? Maybe I made a mistake with choosing this career. So they put up with it, ignore the verbal abuse, or an alternative could be, I need to respectfully and firmly set limits with that person, and that is a skill that anyone can learn. But maybe not one that comes naturally. So you see you see how to map your thoughts? If you have a time where you have a really strong reaction, emotionally check your mindset and see what is going on up there. Find out what you were thinking when you had this strong reaction to whatever situation it was. You can map this and analyze it the same way. Once you figure out what your thoughts are doing, you can determine to change your thoughts. And it takes a lot of practice, but you can do that. And that'll save you a lot of grief down the line. Teach your kids to do it too, because they, once we realize that it's usually not personal, and we often make assumptions, we give ourselves all kinds of grief. Usually not personal. Okay, here's another exercise I want you to do. Uh-oh, we have hard stop at 2? Okay. So, quickly draw your hand like you're moving a turkey like you used to do at Thanksgiving time in grade school. Draw your hand. Trace your hand, I should say. Okay, so what can we affect? What is inside our control? Okay, so the hand represents whatever's in your grasp, whatever's in your control. So what in your life can you control? Write a couple ideas in there. This is something you can take out of here and try this another day. How fast you drive is one thing you can control. Just saying. Maybe what you eat is a little outside your control. You can put that on a line. What you're thinking, you can learn to control. So what's outside your control? Now you have a few ideas what's in, like what you can control, what you can change just by force of will or habit or behavior. What's outside our control? Other people. What other people do? Right. Yeah, how they treat us. How we react to it's one thing, but how they treat us is outside our control. What happens in the presidential election coming up could be outside our control. How we think about it and react to it will affect us. So whatever happens, guys, how we react to it is up to us, whether we let it wreck our day or not. What's another thing? The weather is outside our control. On bad, nasty, crappy weeks like we had all of March, that's outside our control, but what we do with it and how we think about it is inside our control. You got the idea?
Okay, so work on what's inside your control. And how you think about things is inside your control, in the hand, how I think. So changing your mindset, changing your behavior around your wellness can be inside your control if you decide to do something about it. So keep that. 2 exercises now, the column technique for analyzing mindset. And this one is, do I really have any control over this or not? Because if I don't, I'm not gonna worry about it anymore. You know how we can spend so much of our time worrying about stuff that never happens and we can't do anything about it anyway? Take it back to what's in my control. I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen. Well, what can I do to affect the situation and have it go the way I want it? Maybe all you can do is pray. Sometimes. About something happening outside your control. Here's some ideas for, you guys have heard of diaphragmatic breathing. That's belly breathing. Here's the problem with belly breathing. People go like this. That's a hyperventilation recipe. Okay, that's going to make you feel like you're going to pass out. So when it comes to diaphragmatic breathing, you want to breathe in, is fill up the lungs like 2 big balloons, and then let it out like this. So slow on the outgo. And then your body, once you shove all that breath out of you, you're going to go right away. Well, what's the point? It's slowing down our breathing, slows down our heart rate. It slows down our, it re-regulates blood pressure. It relaxes our body. It distracts us from whatever's going on in the moment. So if you feel out of control, panicky, anxious, diaphragmatic breathing is a really big help. So if you know that you're like so stressed out, practice this. And I would say practice it once a day so that you can get used to how it works. And then you'd be able to pull it out as a tool when, you sit in the cube, you don't face anybody. Maybe you want to put a sign, relaxation breathing going on. I don't know. If you can get, maybe if you make it part of the culture where you re-regulate your body, which helps calm your mind too. So exercise, we talked about that. Progressive muscle relaxation is another technique where you listen to a voiceover, like get one off of YouTube, progressive muscle. It's the most relaxed you'll ever feel, I promise, if you do progressive muscle relaxation meditation. And then other kinds of meditation. It's just sitting in a chair with no distraction and observing your thinking. And you might be surprised what's going on in there. Doesn't mean you have to do anything about it. You just observe it. Oh, that was a bad thought. You don't do anything with it. So here's progressive. I can send this if it would be helpful. Let me send this slide out so that you guys
Got it. I'll send it and I'll throw out
Okay.
the books that you mentioned as well.
Okay, this is the diaphragmatic breathing process. And basically it's, you draw the big breath in, you count it out slow, and you repeat, repeat, repeat for a few minutes. This is another class. But remember I said, setting protective boundaries on other people and your time is a big deal when it comes to avoiding burnout. I really didn't think I got that. So resilience, you heard that word before? Here's what it really means. You can flex and flow. You can respond in a crisis pretty well because you've got reserves. You have courage. You have used negative and positive experiences to learn from and get stronger. You know what you can control and you know what you can't. And you've learned to know the difference between those. So that's what creates resilience. Final thoughts. The needs, the work will always be more than what we have. So what are you going to do with all that? Not do it all, not all the time. So that prioritization, use care in how you measure success. We didn't talk about this, but success is a lot of things. When you're on the first and second mountain, it can mean very different things. Success is, did I spend my life the way I wanted to? Did it this year go the way I wanted to? Did I achieve my goals? Doesn't necessarily mean money or fame. Value the little things. Other people's pain isn't yours unless it's your kids. And then I tell you, it's so hard when your babies are suffering, no matter how old they are. That's painful. Not gonna lie. You can't take other people's pain home with you, and caring for your wellness is not selfish. It's a basic human need. Please, if you take anything out of here, please consider that one. Then decide on one or two things you want to do to take better care of yourself. And that's the whole. We have 3 minutes. Any particular questions that you are burning in your head?
I have a question.
Yep.
So can you like burn out in like one part of your life but not the other?
Ooh, why?
I'm like totally fine at home, but not here.
Yeah.
Good job for compartmentalizing.
Thanks for that honesty. Yeah,
So
so.
like I'm at home, I'm
Home is
fine.
your happy place. Home is your respite,
Yeah.
sort of,
Uh-huh.
and work is hard, really
Yeah.
hard.
So it's like hard to like even want to come in sometimes.
Yeah, yes.
My boss is not in here, so.
Yes. I would say that's probably.
So it's
true.
like, I
Yes,
feel like I'm fine because most of the time I am fine, but why not?
so home is where you go to recover from work.
Yeah.
Hopefully maybe you're doing that so that you're still able, but yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay, well, at least it's isolated. See, when it goes on too long, it gets to color over everything. You don't want to be there. Any other burning? Yeah.
I think the challenge is always, which I have burned out in my previous career. And I think the challenge, to your point, is having that difficult conversation with your line manager or the people that you answer to at work and defining that boundary. And that's always the difficult conversation to have, but you need to have it for yourself. And find out, where you fall within your workload so that you can keep your own sanity, so that you can still be productive. And I think that's always the big mountain to climb in laying that boundary down at the office.
It's hard.
I think that's a particularly hard one to have here because we value, so highly value a high output that no boss wants to hear, I can't take on more work.
No employee wants to tell their boss,
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
overloaded, I can't do it.
it
'cause then
feels
you're-
like a personal failure, doesn't it, sometimes?
Well, yeah,
too?
and then you're like, am I
Yeah.
gonna lose my job?
However, what's the likelihood, those of you who are managers, I mean, if you are a value, if your output is good, if your performance is good, if you're a good employee, nobody wants to lose a valued employee. So most of the time, if you bring it to a manager, and they will want to help you figure out how to prioritize so that you can stay, so that you will stay. And the ones that maybe aren't kicking it, doing enough, that might be a different story. But I got a feeling you weren't that girl. Right? Because high performers, high achievers, and people that want to do really well, they have put their own pressure on themselves to perform. Your boss will want to know if you're that person, your boss will want to know if you're even close to burning because they don't want to lose you. And they'll help you figure out how to reprioritize things. And sometimes if we don't squeak the wheel, we keep getting more and more, and there's other places it could go. Or maybe more FTEs, do FTE a thing here? Yeah, maybe there is a need for more people. And how are they gonna know? So let's just say, okay.
One more round of applause. for Elliot.
You guys, I have a flyer over here in my card.
All right, one quick last thing, because I know we're out of time. There are some things coming up on the calendar for you. So on the 19th of May, so think, like another 30 days, get to know your female leaders here at JBSS. There's also a session the day after on the 20th. It's very informal. We'll be over at the 4-story in the cafeteria, and we're just gonna sit down and talk about caring for aging parents. If anybody's gone through it, you know how hard it is. If anybody's starting to go through it, if anybody's afraid that they're gonna have to go through it. It's just all of us, I hate to say, let's get together and just commiserate. There's a lot of us in here who either have had to go through a difficult situation, had no idea what to do, had no idea who else to talk to. So feel free, come, listen, share. And then you should have seen an email earlier this week about the news you can use for women leadership resources. These are just a few of the different resources that are available to you. Please contact Sonia Guggen. Her phone number was in the email. It's also listed on here regarding tuition, IO, as well as some other McKinsey Leadership Academy classes. These are no charge to us, you guys. If there is something that you're looking for, that you want help with, either in your career, personal life, talk to Sonia. There's only so much we can go ahead and put out there, but if there's some help that you need, something that you're looking for, someplace you want to get to, talk to Sonia. She can go ahead and help you get there. Okay? All right, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. And thank you again, Allison.
I sent my kid, but I.